You've been lied to, not by accident but by design. The way you think about love, desire, and the opposite sex, it isn't entirely yours. It's been shaped, carefully, by centuries of whispered rules, moral codes, and hidden agendas. And yet, you still feel the confusion. You felt it in the silence after someone you love pulls away without explanation. You felt it in that strange mix of attraction and mistrust you can't put into words. You felt it when you've realized that what you want and what you should want are not always the same thing. Today, we're going to talk about that truth. Not the polite version you hear in self-help books. Not the softened version told in romantic comedies. The raw truth, one that philosophers, psychologists, and even religious thinkers have hinted at for centuries, but which most people choose to ignore. And if you stay with me until the end, you might see your relationships, your desires, and even your own mind in a way you've never dared to before. In the Symposium, Plato described love as a ladder, starting from physical attraction and rising toward divine beauty and truth. But here's the thing. Most of us never climb beyond the first few steps. We're trapped in the lower rungs, where desire burns hot but fades quickly, where infatuation blinds us to flaws, and where we confuse wanting someone with truly knowing them. Nietzsche, centuries later, would be far less romantic. He claimed that what we call love is often just nature's clever disguise for reproduction and dominance. In his eyes, desire wasn't pure, it was strategic. And that strategy, whether we like it or not, plays out every day in ways we're barely aware of. Think about it. How much of your attraction is truly your choice? When you notice someone's smile, their posture, their confidence, those reactions feel personal. But psychologists like Carl Jung would argue that you're also responding to ancient archetypes hardwired into your subconscious. Your type might not just be preference. It could be a centuries-old survival instinct wearing modern clothes. We live in a world that sells us the idea of perfect compatibility. Find your soulmate, they say. There's someone out there who's made just for you. But Schopenhauer would laugh at this. To him, desire was a kind of trick, a bait nature uses to make us pursue people who will serve its purposes, not necessarily our happiness. You may think you're choosing someone because they feel right. In reality, nature might simply be pairing your strengths with their weaknesses to create the next generation. This is why so many relationships crumble after the initial magic wears off. Because what brought you together was never designed to keep you together. We comfort ourselves with phrases like, "they weren't the right one," or "it just wasn't meant to be." But maybe the truth is more unsettling. Maybe the part of you that chose them was never interested in a lifetime. It was interested in a moment. If you want proof, look at history. In ancient Sparta, love and marriage weren't primarily about romance. They were about producing stronger warriors. In Renaissance Europe, marriages among the elite were strategic alliances, designed to merge power and wealth. Love was often secondary, sometimes irrelevant. Fast forward to today and we still see the same patterns, but now they're hidden behind Instagram filters and dating app bios. The language has changed, but the mechanics are eerily familiar. The man who chases status to become more attractive. The woman who unconsciously seeks a partner who can provide security. The quiet calculation we all make when we decide whether someone is worth our time. You can deny these instincts, but you can't erase them. They're older than your name, your culture, and your beliefs. Here's the part that stings. Your conscious mind, the part that writes poetry, that dreams of holding someone's hand on a quiet evening, wants harmony, loyalty, and deep connection. But your unconscious mind, the one shaped by thousands of years of survival, wants advantage. This is why relationships can feel like civil wars. One part of you wants to commit, the other part is scanning the horizon for something or someone better. One part of you wants to forgive, the other part keeps a record of every flaw. Bonhoeffer, the German theologian who resisted the Nazi regime, once wrote that the human heart is deceitful in its own desires. He wasn't talking about romance directly, but the truth applies. Sometimes, we're not just hiding from others, we're hiding from ourselves. So here's the uncomfortable truth. Desire doesn't always care about your peace. It cares about its own fulfillment. And fulfillment doesn't always mean happiness. That's why someone can desire a person who is bad for them. That's why we can feel drawn to danger, mystery, or instability, even when we know it will hurt us. Freud called this the repetition compulsion, the tendency to seek out familiar patterns, even destructive ones, because our unconscious finds comfort in the familiar. And here's the twist. The person you think you can't live without might just be a reflection of your own unresolved wounds. They don't complete you, they repeat you. If this all sounds dark, it's because truth often is. But knowing this gives you an advantage most people never have. Once you see the machinery of desire, you can choose whether to obey it or not. Machiavelli advised rulers to understand human nature, not because it was noble, but because it was predictable. If you can predict desire, yours and others, you can navigate it without being ruled by it. So how do you break the spell? Recognize your patterns. Who do you keep choosing and why? Question the spark. Attraction feels magical, but is it pulling you toward growth or toward a cycle you've lived before? Learn to separate want from need. You can want someone without needing them to define your worth. When you strip away the illusions, you can build connections based on reality, not fantasy. One day you will meet someone who seems to quiet the noise in your head. You'll think, this is it, this is the answer. And maybe it will be, or maybe it will just be the next chapter in the same old story. The point is not to stop loving or stop desiring. The point is to love with your eyes open, to understand that every pull of the heart is part beauty, part biology, and part history. If you can hold all three truths in your mind at once, you won't just survive love, you'll master it. Because in the end, desire isn't the enemy. The real danger is believing that desire is the whole truth. And that's the unspoken truth they never wanted you to hear. You might believe your romantic choices are deeply personal, uniquely yours. But step back for a moment and you'll notice something unsettling. Your type, your patterns, even the age you first fall in love, are all shaped by forces you've never met. Culture, for example, plants invisible seeds in our minds. The movies you watched as a child, the love songs your parents played, the stories society rewards. All of these quietly sketch the outline of your desires. And then there's biology, always humming in the background, nudging you toward certain traits, certain voices, even certain scents. Thinkers like Plato believed we seek in others what is missing in ourselves, the other half of our soul. But modern psychology warns us. Often, what we chase is not the missing half, but the missing wound, the unresolved piece of our own history. We think we're choosing someone new. In reality, we may be choosing the same story in a different body. This is where the illusion shatters. You've been told you're free, that you can love whoever you want. But if you peel back the layers, you'll see that most of your free choices are a tug-of-war between conditioning and instinct. Nietzsche argued that freedom isn't about doing what you want. It's about wanting what you've chosen. And here's the paradox. Most people never reach that point. They don't want what they've truly chosen. They choose what they've been taught to want. Ask yourself, did you choose your idea of beauty, or did advertising do it for you? Did you choose your idea of a perfect partner, or did your parents' relationship shape it for you, whether you're imitating it or rebelling against it? Did you choose your boundaries, or did heartbreak carve them into you without your consent? Until you can answer these questions honestly, your love life will always feel like a puzzle where the pieces keep changing. There's a darker side to all this. Desire, when left unchecked, can become a form of self-betrayal. You start craving the very people who make you doubt yourself. You confuse passion with chaos, mistaking emotional turbulence for deep connection. Freud's writings reveal something uncomfortable. Sometimes we seek partners not to heal our wounds, but to keep them open. Pain, in a strange way, becomes familiar, and familiarity feels like home. That's why you can walk away from someone who treated you well and run back to someone who hurt you, because the latter feels more like the story your subconscious knows how to read. Machiavelli might say, in politics, the greatest danger is believing your enemy is your ally. In love, the greatest danger is believing your wound is your cure. Throughout history, great minds have warned us about the seduction of unchecked desire. The Stoics, for example, taught that freedom comes not from getting what you want, but from wanting less. Epictetus would tell you that the man who masters himself can never truly be enslaved, not by money, not by fear, and certainly not by lust. This isn't about repression, it's about clarity. It's about looking at the person you're drawn to and asking, do I want them, or do I want what they represent to me? The difference is the gap between a love that liberates you and a love that chains you to the same mistakes. Here's the hardest truth of all. Once you see the hidden mechanics of desire, you can never unsee them. You'll notice when someone is flattering you not out of affection but out of manipulation. You'll sense when your own attraction is more about loneliness than about genuine admiration. And this awareness comes with a price. You will lose the naive sweetness of blind love. You will no longer be able to tell yourself comforting lies without feeling the sting of dishonesty. But in exchange, you will gain something infinitely more valuable: control. Because love, stripped of illusion, is still beautiful. But now it's a beauty you can choose, not one that chooses you. One day you will stand at a crossroads. On one path, the familiar, passion, chaos, and the intoxicating pull of old patterns. On the other, something quieter, respect, growth, and a love that doesn't need to burn to be real. Most people will keep walking the first path, mistaking fire for light. But you will know better. You will know that desire is not the enemy. It is the compass. And a compass is only useful when you know where you want to go. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel the rush of attraction, don't just ask, do I want them? Ask instead, what part of me is doing the wanting? If you can answer that honestly, you'll have already stepped off the treadmill of repeating history. You'll have taken the first step toward love that is conscious, chosen, and truly yours. And maybe, just maybe, that's the truth they never wanted you